Are none of the existing trade legions and subsequent warbands appealing to you? Whether it's the World Eaters for being too brutal, or the Death Guard for spreading too much plague and disease, or the Emperor's Children for just existing. Well, I have some good news for you. You can make your own Chaos Warband. You're probably wondering, what is a Chaos Warband and how do I make one? Well, a Chaos Warband is a smaller group of individuals who broke off from a traitor legion either during or after the Scouring, which happened after the Horus Heresy. And if you want more information on the Horus Heresy, look up a YouTube video or two, because they can go into way more detail than I can here. Anyways, and to answer the second question on how you can make your own, well, it's quite simple. There are three easy steps that I will tell you that, and I'll sprinkle in some tips and tricks I learned from making my own warband of nightlords who worship both the blood god and the. So the first step to making your chaos warband is choosing how slash who your warband worships, whether it's some chaos god or it's just chaos undivided. So one of the major chaos gods is Korn, also known as the blood god. He is one of the easier Chaos Gods to write a warband for because he does not care where the blood flows as long as it does. So you're able to write most Traitor Legion warbands like this, whether they're from the Night Lords, the Iron Warriors, Word Bearers, Black Legion, does not matter. You can write them into Khorne's history. Whether it's the Night Lords being, well, Night Lords with skinning people and having their fun, or the Iron Warriors sieging a large city, thus causing blood to flow, and Khorne giving them powers. Or even the Word Bearers being more brutal than most of their other brothers, and thus gaining the attention of Khorne. Then we come to Zeech, the god of change and trickery. He is best worshipped by warbands who use the warp, like the Thousand Suns, or any psyker, which psychers are basically people who can get in touch with the power of the warp and basically use it to either control someone from thousands of miles away or be able to pick up something. And there are a whole host of levels from what I have been told. I have not done too much research into psychers because, I'll be honest, not really a big fan of them, but hey. Sorry. And most trader warbands have the ability to access warp magic, which thus gives them abilities to worship Zeech, which could benefit them because Zeech has this fire that can burn people at a molecular level. But it could also do a whole host of other things with him being the god of change and trickery. So the fire has a 1 in Lord knows how much chance of burning everything inorganic on a person, burning the person at a molecular level, turning them into whatever, corrupting them, doesn't matter. It even has a chance to do nothing. Which, again, Siege being the Lord Change and Trickery kind of makes sense. Then we have Nurgle, the Plague Father. He spreads disease and plague while he gives you the benefits of eternal life and happiness via giving you rot and decay. Sure, you're, again, happy and you're able to live through most things, but at what cost? You become a bloated, rotting corpse. And in a book I like to read called The Lords of Silence, you follow a Plague Legion, which is basically a Death Guard warband. You follow this Plague Legion for half of the book. And they're happy spreading disease and plague and rot across the Imperial world. and they're shrugging off stuff that should not be possible for a normal Astartes, which is a space marine. But then, about halfway through, you switch over to the guardsman perspective, the military's perspective on the planet. And it is horrible. They are giving it everything they've got. They're firing everything at this plague legion, and nothing. They keep walking towards them. And one of the guardsmen shoots off a plague marine's arm. It grows back as a tentacle, or what at least what he can only describe as a tentacle. Another guardsman next to him fires off a las cannon, and it blows a another plague marine's legs off. They grow back, more grotesque than how they already were. And another guardsman shoots one of the plague marines in the chest. His chest doesn't grow back, but the internal organs that were being protected by his armor and his skin start to, I guess, protrude out this hole. That is why Nurgle is not my favorite when it comes to the Chaos Gods. My favorite would definitely be Khorne. But yeah, Nurgle. Would not recommend worshipping.
Then we have Slanesh, the god of excess and the prince of pleasure. It lives for the pursuit of excess, whether it's the excess of pleasure, the excess of pride, the excess of perfection, or whatever, as long as there is an excess of it. Then we come to Chaos Undivided, which is the worship of the previous four Chaos gods as a whole. It's definitely one of the harder ways to do a Chaos Warband, but it is possible. Although, would I recommend it? No, because you wouldn't be able to get as much detail in there as you would with, let's say, a Slaneshi warband. Then we have come to the multi-god warbands, which is basically you have two or more gods that your warband worships. Whether it's a Nurgle Zeech warband or a Khorne Zeech or whatever. Just remember, try not to mix Khorne and Slanesh and Zeech and Nurgle, because they hate each other. Granted, the four of them already hate each other, but they hate each other. Khorne and Slanesh hate each other more than Khorne would hate Zeech, or Khorne would hate Nurgle, or Slanesh would hate Zeech. You get the point. So the next big step you would want to consider is how your warband conducts war. So three things you want to consider regarding this would be what kind of doctrine your warband uses, whether or not they use cultists and lesser demons, and if they do use demons, do they have a summoner that can summon greater demons and demon princes? So one of the steps on deciding how your warband does war is what kind of doctrine they use. Are they hide and use terror tactics? Do they run in, hit hard, and get out? Or are they like the world eaters and as pictured and just run in and kill anything and everything that breathes or moves or whatever? Or are they like the Iron Warriors, which use siege warfare? There are a whole host of ways you can do war. So go crazy with it. You can even make your own way of doing war. You can combine tactics and stuff so that fit your warband. So this is probably one of the easier steps in my personal opinion, so you can go as wild as you want with it. So one of the next things you want to consider when deciding your doctrine is whether or not your warband uses cultists and lesser demons, which are basically your bloodletters, demonettes, blue and pink horrors, poxwalkers, and nurglings, which basically mean they are still powerful enough to corrupt the minds of space marines, but not like they're stronger, better, siblings, I guess one would call them. And cultists are basically meat shields for your warband. So let's say you have a Nurgle based warband. Your entire purpose would be to spread plague and disease. These cultists would believe in that, and so they would spread plague and disease with you. And the lesser demons you would get would be poxwalkers and nurglings, which are basically amalgamations of rot and decay. So, the final thing you want to consider on how your warband does war is whether or not they have sorcerers that are able to summon greater demons and demon princes. And greater demons are basically more powerful demons, but are harder to summon. Like, let's say, for example, you have a Zichi warband. Your greater demon would be a Lord of Change, and your demon prince would look a lot like a Lord of Change, depending on how they were transformed. So let's say they were a sorcerer from the Thousand Suns. They would grow into this grotesque bird looking thing. And let's say you have a Core Knight Warband. Your greater demon would be a Bloodthirster, and your demon prince would look a lot like Angron pictured here. So the final major step of making a warband is writing lore for that warband. And I've found four don'ts and three do's when it comes to that. So the four don'ts of making a warband are don't do not break established lore just so your warband makes sense. So let's say you're making a Chaos Undivided warband, but they're still loyal to the Imperium. That really doesn't make sense in terms of lore, because Chaos is one of the greatest enemies to the Imperium of Man. So, yeah. The next thing is avoid making a overpowered character. So, and most people in this setting and hobby call it making a Caldor Drago. Caldor Drago is basically a power fantasy, I guess, from one of the authors that made him. He is the Grandmaster of the Grey Knights, and he has been able to take on greater demons and win. Not many people in the setting outside of very powerful psychers and people with plot armor can do. The third don't is try not to include many major characters from the lore outside of your chosen god or gods of chaos, because if you include them and you say, "Oh, I my warband leader took on Khan the Betrayer and he won." Khan the Betrayer is a world eater who is renowned for his melee finesse. There we go, finesse. So the fourth don't I have found is try not to use AI too much, because AI in the setting, if you use AI, it takes away from the fun of making lore and creating your own warband from your own mind. You can use it for some things like ideas, but you need to take those ideas the AI gave you and make them your own. So, and now we're moving on to the three do's of making a warband. You can make them as devoted as you want to your god or gods or whatever. If they are chaos undivided, again, you can make them as devoted or not devoted as you want. You can make them like the word bearers, who anything the chaos gods do, they will preach it like they came down from the heavens themselves. Or you can make them like the Iron Warriors, who, sure, they're stated as chaos undivided, but if they're given a boon from any of the gods, they'll cut off whatever part of their body that boon appeared from. The second step on the second do, I should say, on making your own warband is you can make them as brutal as you want. They can be like the Iron Warriors, being cold and efficient, or they can be like the nightlords, which are brutal and terroristic in their tactics.